Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jenna, and today I'm going to be talking all about my water birth at a birth center. I had my second baby 10 weeks ago. 10 weeks ago now. A few weeks ago, I asked on Instagram if you guys had any questions about a water birth or my birth experience, and I got way more questions than I expected on that, so I decided I'd just make a full video on frequently asked questions I didn't get to, or just new questions. So that's what this video is going to be. So what I'm going to be answering is just from my experience from my birth center. I don't know how it goes throughout any other birth centers or home births or anything. So this is just my experience. I don't have a medical background or anything. I just love talking about birth and pregnancy and stuff. So I hope this helps you out if you're trying to decide if you want to do a water birth or if you're just curious about it. But yeah, let's get into the questions. So the first question is a very frequently asked question, and it's actually two questions. It is, what made you want to do a water birth, and would you do it again? So for the first part, what made me want to do a water birth? I wanted to do a water birth with my first baby, but the hospital I was going to didn't offer water births. And I really felt like I needed to be at a hospital for that birth. What really made me decide on a water birth is I got a really bad tear with my first baby. I got a 4th-degree tear, and a lot of times they really encourage you to get a C-section for your next babies. But I did not want a C-section. I am like so terrified of that. And so I wanted to try another vaginal birth, but I was terrified to tear again. That bad, because it could just turn out not good at all. So I was researching a lot. I did so much research, and water has been shown to reduce tearing. Also, it is really gentle on the baby. It's a smoother entrance into the world. It's just like the womb. They're in water in the womb, and they're born into the water, and it's a smoother transition. Baby's down here, if you hear her. The last part of that question, would I do it again? If we pretend my first birth injury didn't exist, I would 100% do a water birth again. It went so smoothly. It was a very beautiful experience, a very intense experience, and it was the best decision I could have made. So I would 100% do it again. The next question was, did you prefer your birth center experience over hospital? Yes, I can't recommend a birth center enough. Obviously there is a time and place for hospitals, and I'm so grateful for doctors and surgeons and healthcare, but in a normal healthy pregnancy, a birth center is completely safe, and it was a really good experience. My first birth was, it's not that I had like the worst experience at the hospital, but I just had a much better experience at the birth center. I personally feel like my midwives I saw cared for me as a person, rather than when you're at a hospital, you just kind of are a patient, like you're sick and they're taking care of you. I really am so thankful for the birth center. I also think that my birth center experience was much more enjoyable because it felt like home. It was in a very nice room. It was beautiful. They had a big bed. They had a very nice bathtub, a couch, your own bathroom in the room that was like a cute bathroom, and all these little things that seem like it wouldn't be a big deal, but it genuinely is. When you're in labor, you want to feel the most relaxed and comfortable you can, and it was just that. It was perfect, and I definitely prefer it over a hospital, and I'm very grateful I got the experience. The next question is, did the water help / soothe the pain from contractions at all? Yes, it helped so much. Like, my contractions felt like they had stopped for a good, I don't know, 15 minutes. I just felt like I was kind of just chilling. Like, I got tightenings and stuff, but when I got in the tub, it was when I was in transition phase. So normally when you're like the most intense part, where you're kind of going crazy in your mind and people can be yelling or whatever, I got into the tub at that point, and I seriously just was like, did my labor just stop? Because like, did I just stall my labor? Because my pain drastically decreased so much. Obviously the intensity picked up a lot more as I started to get to the pushing phase, but the water is what they call the midwives epidural, I think is what like the slang for it is. And I think that's true. They say it's like the most helpful thing compared to pain medication. And yeah, it was really nice. Even if you don't want to have a water birth, I would really recommend laboring in the water, because it soothes so much. You're just able to manage the pain and intensity better. And then somebody asked, how long did you stay in the tub after birth? I don't know exactly. I could have stayed in longer than 10-15 minutes. I really didn't want to stay in longer than that. I didn't even deliver the placenta in the tub, partly because a lot of the midwives at the birth center I went to prefer to deliver the placenta out of the water, because they can monitor your bleeding better, make sure you're not bleeding too much or anything. I wanted to get out right away, like right when Tatum came onto my chest. I was like pretty much ready to get out, because I did not like seeing, this is the only part of the birth experience I didn't like. I did not like seeing the afterbirth blood and stuff in the tub. It actually really freaked me out. I thought I was bleeding way too much. The second reason being, I thought I got another really bad tear, so I wanted to get out ASAP because I didn't want to lose too much blood from that. I think it was like 10 minutes, maybe. I don't even know if it was 10 minutes. It was seriously so fast that I got out because I just kept asking them if I could get out. Okay, the next question is, I heard laboring in the water can slow down the process. Was that true in your case? So I had heard that too. It can go like both opposite ways. It can slow down your labor, or it can just like make your labor take off. And I do think in my case it made my labor take off. Also though, I think I was already pretty much in the final stages before I was ready to push. I got in the tub and it felt like it stalled because my contractions were way more manageable, but then I was ready to push almost within 15 minutes of getting in the tub. So I don't think it stalled me at all. Another question was, did the midwives have recommendations, or did they kind of just let you do whatever? They definitely had recommendations, which I'm thankful for, because they've done a lot of births and they tend to lean more towards the like natural, holistic side of things, which is why part of the reason I chose that birth center. But their main thing, like the main thing they kind of pound into your brain throughout pregnancy and stuff, is that it's your birth and you get to make the final decision, and it should be an informed decision. Obviously, if there's an emergency, like they need you to go to the hospital, they're gonna tell you need to go to the hospital. But yeah, otherwise they're like, you are the birthing person, it's your decision, whatever you choose to do. So I really liked that about the birth center and the midwives. This question, I'm really glad somebody asked it, because I had this concern too. I think everybody has this concern, whether you're having a hospital birth or water birth or just a plain birth center birth or home birth, whatever. Anyway, the question is, I'm planning one in September. What about pooping while pushing? Does it float and someone scoops it up? I straight up asked them, I'm like, so what happens if you go to the bathroom while you're pushing? And they said they just use a net and they scoop it. So thankfully this didn't happen to me, but I'm sure it happens all the time because it's so common for women to poop during birth, because that's like you're pushing with all your might, you know? That they actually say they want to see you do that because it means you're pushing correctly. So yeah, I just asked them so that it calmed my fears, and they said they will just scoop it up with a net, and you probably won't even know that it happened because you're so focused on your labor. This next one is a really good question too. The question is, would you suggest a birth center birth for your first baby? From my experience that I just had, I would say absolutely. It's the best experience if you are healthy, if your pregnancy is healthy and it's normal, uncomplicated. I would say go for it if you are comfortable with it. One of the most important things in birth that I've learned from research and hearing and reading and stuff is to feel completely safe and comfortable. So if you feel safe doing it at a birth center, I would say 100% go for it. The birth center I was at was maybe 5 minutes from a very good hospital, and they transferred you there right away if something happens to go wrong. So I felt very safe going there this time. The only reason I would say a first-time mom should not give birth at a birth center is if they don't feel safe there. If they are going to be worried about something going wrong the whole time, just go somewhere you're comfortable. If you're more comfortable in a hospital because you know you're already there and if there's an emergency, they can take care of it. Go to a hospital, because if your mind is at peace, your body is going to be at peace. Or if you have a complicated pregnancy, most birth centers wouldn't even allow you to give birth there anyways. But if you know that your pregnancy is complicated, then I would suggest going to a hospital too, because that's why we have hospitals. So the next question was asked a lot, and I'm gonna have to be pretty vague because I don't know how other birth centers compare, but this was about cost, and it is, how does the cost differ from a hospital birth to a birth center birth? The one answer I can give a for sure answer on is that it is so much more affordable to give birth at a freestanding birth center than at a hospital. Hospitals charge a lot of money compared to birth centers, so I do know that. However, I don't know what other birth centers cost, so that's going to be something you have to look into for yourself. But I do know, comparing my two births, very big difference. So if you're worried about price, just know it's cheaper. And then another question that goes along with this that was asked a lot is it covered by insurance? Again, I don't know for other birth centers. The birth center I went to, my Minnesota people, this birth center is covered by most insurance providers, carriers. I don't really know what to consider it, but on their website it says they are covered by most of the big insurance providers. So that's also really good news if you want to do a birth center. The next question is biggest concern of birthing out of a hospital. And I kind of got over all my concerns before birth about things going wrong and all that, because like I said, my birth center that I birthed at was only like maybe 5 minutes tops from one of the highest rated hospitals in our state. So I wasn't too worried about something going wrong, because I knew that we were very close by if something were to go wrong, and it's so rare for healthy pregnancies to have major complications at a birth center based on their statistics. So my biggest concern was needing to be transferred there, so like the car ride to the hospital, because it's already so hard to manage that very last bit of labor before you push, and I couldn't imagine being in that stage having to sit in a car. That was probably my main concern. But my biggest concerns about something going wrong was like bleeding too much, and they had medication to stop your bleeding if you did bleed too much, so that was a good reassurance thing for me. My other concerns were if I tore a lot again, but they would transfer me to the hospital to be stitched up or operated on. So this next question is, how long can a baby stay underwater after you birth them? Or what if you're pushing for a very long time? I'm not a doctor. I don't have any medical background, just throwing that out there. So here's what I learned from my midwife and just research and stuff when I was thinking about a birth center. When you give birth, your baby is still connected to your placenta, which is where they get their nutrients and their oxygen, all that stuff that keeps them alive. So when you birth them, they're still connected to the placenta through the umbilical cord. So their head could come out of you and their body's still in you underwater, but they are still getting oxygen because they don't know they're born yet. So they still think they're in the womb because it's water, and then the umbilical cord is just giving them oxygen like it was the whole time that you were pregnant. So they can stay under there until you take them out of the water. Once you take them out of the water, you can't put them back in, obviously, because they're starting to breathe, or if the umbilical cord is cut or detached or whatever, then they need to get out of the water right away. I'm sure there are times and like fluke situations where the baby does take a breath, but I don't think it's very common at all. If you're pushing for a long time, you're just going to be switching positions a lot. If it's too long, I'm sure they'd have you get out of the tub and do other things to make the baby come faster. The next question is, can you have hot water? And this was something I was really curious about too, and I never asked anybody, but yes, you can have hot water. So they had a thermometer that they would keep in the tub most of the time, and just make sure that the temperature didn't go too high or too low. Good question, because I was really nervous about that too. It's like, what if the water's like lukewarm and it doesn't feel nice? Like, that would kind of be uncomfortable. But yeah, it was warm. So the last question was asked a lot, and people were curious if a water birth is unmedicated. And I don't 100% know the answer for every water birth, but at the birth center, it is unmedicated. They don't even offer medication at the birth center. So for for pain at least. So anywhere you give birth there, on the bed, the birthing stool, the birthing sling, the birth pool, the shower, wherever, it's going to be unmedicated. They did offer gas and air. Hospital, I would assume you have to do unmedicated if you're going to do a water birth, because most of the pain medications they use are through a spinal injection. I don't know, you can correct me in the comments if you're more educated on the hospital side of things. Okay, I think that's all the questions for today. If you have any more questions, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll just answer on the comments. Or you can message me, whatever, on Instagram. I hope this video was really informative and really helpful. Again, this is just my experience. I feel like I don't have that much experience or knowledge to share, but I know there was a lot of curiosity around water birth, and for good reason. It's such a fascinating thing to talk about and learn about. So I hope that it was a fun, informative video and maybe helped you make an easier decision or just entertained you for a little bit. If you are new here or you've been around for a while and you're not subscribed yet, then feel free to subscribe if you want to. We would be happy to have you along in our little community. But for now, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you back next time. Bye.